Part 1. The Ultimatum. The chamber was massive, built to hold representatives from thousands of worlds. Crystal pillars rose toward a ceiling that displayed the swirling colors of a nearby nebula. Delegates from across the galaxy sat in floating seats arranged in a great circle. At the center stood Ambassador Chen, a human woman with silver hair tied back in a simple knot. She wore a plain gray suit, nothing fancy. She looked small compared to most of the other delegates. Across from her stood Commander Vrath of the Krethian Empire. He was nearly 9 feet tall, covered in thick red scales that looked like armor. His 4 arms crossed over his massive chest as he stared down at Chen with yellow eyes that held nothing but contempt. Behind him, 6 more Krethian warriors stood at attention, each one carrying weapons despite council rules against them. The Krethian Empire demands that humanity surrender the colony worlds of New Seattle, Vishnu, and Terra Nova, Vrath announced, his voice booming through the chamber. These systems lie within territory that rightfully belongs to us. You have 1 standard week to evacuate your settlers. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Krethians had been growing more aggressive over the past decade, conquering 12 star systems. Most species simply moved out of their way. The Krethians were too strong, too numerous, too willing to use violence. Chen did not move. Her face remained calm, almost neutral. Those worlds have been human colonies for over a century. They contain nearly 15 million people. We will not abandon them. Vrath laughed, a harsh, barking sound. Then we will remove them for you. Your species talks much about peace and trade. You build schools and markets while real civilizations build fleets and armies. You are weak. The galaxy knows it. Your military is a joke compared to ours. We have no desire for conflict, Chen replied quietly, but we will defend our people if necessary. This only made Vrath laugh harder. Several other Krethian delegates joined in, the sound echoing through the chamber. Defend with what? Your cargo haulers, your mining ships. He leaned forward, his massive frame looming over the center of the room. I have seen your military reports. Your fleet is 1/3 the size of ours. Your soldiers are small and soft. You have not fought a real war in centuries. 400 years, said a quiet voice from the side of the chamber. Everyone turned. An elderly alien slowly rose from his seat. He was a Vurath, one of the oldest species in the council. His name was Casthar, and his leathery skin had faded to a pale gray with age. His 6 eyes blinked slowly as he looked at Vrath. Humanity's last war was 400 years ago, Casthar continued. Perhaps you should inquire about that conflict before making threats you cannot withdraw from. Vrath turned his attention to the old Vurath. I know of no such war in the records. Humanity joined the council peacefully. They have been model citizens, always following rules, always seeking compromise. They are merchants and farmers, not warriors. Casthar's mandibles clicked together in what might have been a sad smile. Ask about the Zathresh. Ask what happened to them. A ripple of confusion moved through the chamber. Several delegates pulled up data screens, searching their archives. The name Zathresh seemed familiar to some, but the details were hazy, missing, strange. I find no significant information about this species, one of the delegates announced. There are references to them in old star charts, but the records are incomplete, corrupted perhaps. Not corrupted, Casthar said softly, sealed by agreement of this council. Vrath snorted. Old legends and mystery stories do not concern the Krethian Empire. We deal in present realities. The reality is that humanity is weak and weakness invites conquest. He turned back to Chen. You have 72 hours to begin evacuation. After that, we will take what we want by force. The council has no power to stop us, and neither do you. Chen stood there for a long moment, her hands clasped behind her back. When she spoke, her voice remained level and calm. Commander Vrath, I am authorized to give you one opportunity. Withdraw your claim on our colonies. This situation can still end peacefully. Peaceful? Vrath sneered. You stand there powerless and speak of peace as if you have a choice in the matter. Your species will learn the same lesson 12 others have learned. The strong take what they want. The weak surrender or die. 72 hours, Chen repeated, as if Vrath had not spoken. I am giving you 72 hours to reconsider. Please use this time wisely. The tone of her voice had not changed at all. She was not angry or frightened or desperate. She simply stated a fact, as if reading from a weather report. Somehow that made it worse. Several delegates felt a strange chill move through the chamber. Vrath slammed one of his 4 fists on the speaker's platform. I do not need your permission or your time limit, human. The Krethian Empire does not take orders from prey species. He gestured to his warriors. We are finished here. In 3 days, we will demonstrate what real military power looks like. I suggest the rest of you watch carefully and remember this lesson. The Krethian delegation marched out of the chamber, their heavy footsteps echoing off the crystal walls. As soon as they were gone, the chamber erupted in nervous chatter. Delegates argued about what should be done, whether the council should intervene, what the political ramifications would be. Chen remained standing in the center, unmoved by the chaos around her. She tapped a small device on her wrist, sending a message to Human Fleet Command. The message contained only 2 words, Protocol Omega. Casthor slowly made his way down to the chamber floor. His movements were stiff with age, and it took him several minutes to reach Chen. The other delegates were too busy arguing to notice. Do they really not know? Casthor asked quietly when he reached her. Chen looked up at the old Verith. There was something in her eyes now, something that had not been there before. It was not anger or fear. It was something colder, something that made Casthor want to look away. No, Chen said. No one remembers anymore. We made sure of it. Can you not stop this? Surely there is still time for diplomacy. We gave them 72 hours. That is more than the Zathresh gave us. Chen's voice remained calm, but each word fell like a stone. We will follow every protocol. We will file every form. We will give them every chance to turn back. But Casthor, you know what happens if they do not. The old Verith's skin paled even further. Yes, I was there when the council agreed to seal the records. I remember. He paused. I remember why we were all so eager to forget. Then you understand why this must happen if they proceed. I do, I just wish. Casthor trailed off, his 6 eyes sad. I wish the galaxy had a longer memory. If they knew, truly knew, they would never threaten you. Chen nodded slowly. That is the price of peace. We agreed to become the merchants, the diplomats, the quiet ones. We agreed to let the galaxy forget what we are capable of. It has bought us 4 centuries of peace. That is worth something. And now we see if the Krethians are wise enough to listen. I hope they are. I truly do. But the look in her eyes said she did not believe they would be. Casthor watched as Chen walked calmly out of the chamber, her shoulders straight, her pace measured and controlled. She looked like a diplomat going to file paperwork, but Casthor knew better. He had been there 400 years ago. He had seen what happened when humanity stopped being diplomats. He said a quiet prayer for the Krethians, though he knew it would not help. Some species had to learn the hard way. The galaxy would remember this lesson, at least for a little while. Part 2. The Investigation. The Krethian war fleet assembled in the darkness between stars. 300 warships, each one bristling with weapons and shields. Commander Vrath stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical displays with satisfaction. In 2 days, they would cross into human space and take what was rightfully theirs. Let the humans cry to their council. Let them beg for mercy. The Krethians would show the galaxy what happened to species that refused to submit. Sir, one of his intelligence officers called out. We have been reviewing historical databases as ordered. There are some unusual findings regarding the species Casthor mentioned, the Zathresh. What about them? Vrath did not bother to look away from the displays. The records are strange, sir. We can find references to the Zathresh in old star charts and trade logs. They controlled a region of space near human territory about 400 years ago, but detailed information about them is missing. Not corrupted, deliberately removed. Removed by whom? Unknown, sir, but it appears to have been a council-wide effort. Multiple species databases show the same gaps. We managed to find one intact military archive entry. The officer pulled up the document on the main screen. Vrath read it, frowning. The Zathresh War, duration 11 months, human casualties 8.3 million, Zathresh casualties. He paused. Data expunged. What does that mean? Unknown, sir. We cannot access the full report, but we did find some biological data about the Zathresh themselves before the war. The officer brought up an image. Even Vrath felt a moment of unease looking at it. The Zathresh had been massive creatures, 12 feet tall and heavily muscled. Their bodies were covered in natural armor plating, dark blue and thick. They had 4 arms, each one ending in razor-sharp claws. Their heads were dominated by powerful jaws filled with teeth designed for tearing flesh. Apex predators, the intelligence officer continued. High-gravity world origin. Records indicate they were considered the finest warriors in the known galaxy at that time. Strength far exceeding most species. Natural weapons. Aggressive culture based on hunting and conquest. And the humans fought them, according to this. Yes, sir, but the details are sealed. Vrath studied the image for a moment longer, then dismissed it with a wave of his hand. Obviously, the war was not decisive, or we would have heard of it. The humans probably paid tribute or surrendered territory. They are not fighters. File this away and focus on current intelligence. Yes, sir. But across the galaxy, others were looking for the same information, and some were finding pieces of the truth. Part 3, the memory. On the council station, Caster sat in his private chamber, reviewing files that most people did not have access to anymore. His security clearance was one of the highest in the council. He had been a senior member for 600 years. He remembered things that others had been allowed to forget. The Zathresh had been terrifying. That was the simple truth of it. They were born killers, bred by evolution on a brutal world where only the strongest survived. When they developed space travel, they did not seek to trade or explore. They sought to hunt. For 2 centuries, they had terrorized the galaxy. They would descend on colony worlds, kill the inhabitants, and take what they wanted. They did not conquer territory. They did not build empires. They simply hunted for sport and survival. The council had tried to negotiate with them countless times. The Zathresh had no interest in peace. They viewed other species as prey, nothing more. Then they encountered humanity. Caster pulled up the old records, the ones that had been sealed but not destroyed. Someone needed to remember. Someone needed to know what happened, even if it could never be spoken of publicly. The first contact had been peaceful. A human colony ship had sent greetings when Zathresh vessels entered the system. The Zathresh response was to destroy the colony ship and then descend on the planet below. New Columbia, population 2.7 million. The Zathresh spent 3 days hunting humans through the streets and forests. They broadcast the entire thing across local space, their equivalent of entertainment. Humanity sent diplomats. The Zathresh killed them on sight and sent back the bodies. Humanity sent military vessels with warnings to stay away from human space. The Zathresh destroyed the fleet and attacked 2 more colonies. New Mumbai, population 3.1 million. New Lagos, population 2.5 million. They glassed the planets from orbit, turning the surfaces into burning wastelands. Humanity came to the council, following every proper channel. They showed evidence of the attacks. They requested intervention. They asked the council to mediate. The Zathresh ignored all council communications. They announced that humans were their new favorite prey, small and weak, but surprisingly clever. It made the hunt more interesting. The council debated. The Zathresh were powerful, dangerous. What if intervention made things worse? What if the Zathresh turned on the council itself? Perhaps humanity could relocate their colonies. Perhaps they could pay tribute. Perhaps a compromise could be reached. For 6 months, the council debated while the Zathresh continued to hunt humans. Then humanity stopped asking permission. Castor remembered the day the human delegate had stood before the council. Her name had been Ambassador Rodriguez. She had been calm, just like Chen, unnaturally calm. "We came to you in good faith," Rodriguez had said. "We followed your laws, we respected your processes. We asked for help while our people died. You gave us debates and committees and discussions, so we will solve this problem ourselves. Consider this a formal notice. Humanity is withdrawing from council oversight for the duration of this conflict. When it is over, we will return. The Zathresh will not." The council had protested. They had no authority to wage a war of extermination. It was against all galactic law. They would be punished, expelled from the council. Rodriguez had looked at them with cold eyes. "Punish us after we bury our dead, if you can." That had been the last time humanity asked permission for anything. The war lasted 11 months, that was all. In the first month, humanity pulled back all their colony ships and civilians from anywhere near Zathresh space. They evacuated whole worlds. The Zathresh thought the humans were running and they gave chase, eager for more prey. They found human military fleets instead. Castor pulled up the battle reports. He had read them dozens of times over the centuries, and they still made his blood run cold. The humans fought with a precision and ruthlessness that shocked everyone. They did not try to capture Zathresh vessels. They destroyed them, every single one. They did not take prisoners. They did not negotiate. They simply killed. The Zathresh were superior warriors in single combat, but humanity did not fight fair. They used tactics the Zathresh could not predict. They struck from impossible angles. They set traps. They used weapons that violated every accepted rule of warfare. Biological weapons, nuclear weapons, kinetic bombardment, anything that worked. By month 3, the Zathresh had lost half their fleet. By month 6, they had lost their military entirely. By month 9, human fleets surrounded every Zathresh world. The Zathresh finally tried to surrender. Humanity said no. Castor closed his eyes, remembering the reports from the final 2 months. He wished he could forget them. The humans systematically eliminated the Zathresh from every world they occupied. Not just the warriors, everyone. They said it was necessary. The Zathresh were too dangerous, too violent. They would never stop hunting, never stop killing. The only way to protect the galaxy was to remove them entirely. And when the last Zathresh died, humanity did something even more terrifying. They erased them. They destroyed historical records. They collapsed the Zathresh home star, turning their entire solar system into a black hole. They removed the species from existence so thoroughly that future generations would not even know they had existed. Then humanity came back to the council and asked to rejoin. The council had been faced with a choice. They could refuse humanity and risk becoming the next target, or they could accept them back and pretend none of it had happened. The council chose survival. They agreed to seal the records. They agreed to never speak of it. In exchange, humanity promised to return to being peaceful members of galactic society. For 400 years, that agreement had held. Castor opened his eyes and looked at the current reports. The Crethian fleet was assembling. They would attack in less than 48 hours. They had no idea what was waiting for them. He sent a message to the Crethian emperor directly and privately. He attached some of the sealed records, enough to show the truth. He begged them to reconsider. The emperor never responded. Castor sat alone in his chamber and waited. He knew what was coming. He had seen it before. The galaxy was about to remember why they had agreed to forget. Part 4, First Contact. The Krethian fleet crossed into human space exactly 72 hours after the ultimatum had been delivered. Commander Vrath expected resistance at the border. He expected human ships to meet them with demands and warnings. Instead, they found nothing. Empty space. Silent sensors. Not a single human vessel anywhere near the border. They fled, one of his officers said with satisfaction. Just as predicted, they are cowards. Vrath was not so certain. Something felt wrong. His instincts, honed through dozens of conquests, whispered warnings, but he pushed the feeling aside. Intelligence reports showed human military strength. They were outmatched. Of course they would run. The fleet proceeded to the first target, a mining colony on the edge of human space. Population listed at 50,000. Small defenses. Easy target. They would make an example of it, broadcast the destruction across human worlds, and force a quick surrender. When they arrived, the colony was empty. Scan the surface, Vrath ordered. Find them. The scans showed nothing. No life signs. No power signatures. The colony had been evacuated completely. Buildings still stood, but every human was gone, taken away on ships that must have left weeks ago. They knew we were coming, the tactical officer said, confused. They prepared. Move to the next target, Vrath ordered. A larger colony, 100,000 people. That one could not have been evacuated so easily. It was also empty. What is this? Vrath growled. Where are they? Sir, receiving a transmission from the third planet in this system. It is designated Threshold Station, a human military installation. Put it on screen. The image that appeared showed a human male in a dark uniform. He wore the rank insignia of a fleet admiral. His face was weathered, scarred across one cheek. His eyes were flat and cold, nothing like the diplomatic ambassadors the Krethians had met before. Krethian vessels, the admiral said calmly. You have entered human space with hostile intent. You have refused diplomatic solutions. Under Protocol Omega, all civilian populations have been evacuated from forward colonies. All that remains are military forces. If you proceed, you will be met with lethal force. You have one final opportunity to withdraw. Choose wisely. Vrath laughed. One installation threatens 300 warships. Humanity's arrogance knows no bounds. Tactical, destroy that station. The tactical officer's hands moved across the controls, then stopped. Sir, the station is heavily defended. I am reading weapon signatures that do not match any known human military technology. Impossible. Our intelligence is current. Nevertheless, sir, those are not standard defensive platforms. I am reading gravitational anomalies, energy buildups in wavelengths I do not recognize. And the officer's voice trailed off. What? Sir, there are ships, dozens of them. They were hidden in the station's sensor shadow. They are powering up weapons. How many? 57 vessels, sir. Destroyer class and larger. They are moving to intercept. 57 against 300. The numbers still favored the Krethians heavily. Vrath smiled. All vessels attack formation. Destroy the defenders and then reduce that station to atoms. The battle began. It was not what Vrath expected. The human ships moved with impossible coordination. They did not charge forward to meet the Krethian fleet in honorable combat. Instead, they split into small groups and struck from multiple angles simultaneously. Their weapons were devastating, beams of coherent gravity that crushed Krethian vessels like tin cans, missiles that accelerated to relativistic speeds, hitting with the force of nuclear weapons. Electronic warfare that shut down Krethian systems faster than technicians could restore them. Within the first 10 minutes, the Krethians lost 20 ships. Focus fire, Vrath ordered. Concentrate all weapons on single targets. They managed to destroy 4 human vessels. The humans did not even slow down. The remaining ships continued their precise attacks, targeting engines and weapon systems with surgical accuracy. The Krethian formation began to break apart as ships lost maneuvering capability. Sir, we are detecting additional human forces entering the system. Multiple jump signatures. I count at least 100 vessels incoming. Vrath felt cold fear for the first time in decades. This was wrong. Intelligence had said the human fleet was smaller than theirs. Where had these ships come from? The battle turned into a slaughter, not of the humans but of the Krethians. The new human vessels hit the Krethian flanks while the original defenders pressed the center. Krethian ships exploded in silent fury. Debris fields expanded into space. Escape pods launched by the hundreds. The humans destroyed the escape pods. They are killing survivors, an officer shouted in horror. That violates the conventions of war. Vrath watched in disbelief as human weapons systematically eliminated every escape pod, every damaged vessel that still showed life signs. They were not fighting a war. They were exterminating an infestation. All ships retreat, Vrath finally ordered. Jump to secondary coordinates. The surviving Krethian vessels, less than 200 now, engaged their jump drives and fled. The humans did not pursue. They simply held their position around Threshold Station, waiting. On the flagship bridge, the officers were silent. They had just lost 40% of their fleet in a single battle against an enemy that was supposed to be weak. Get me Emperor Thrak, Vrath said quietly, his voice shaken. He needs to know. While the communication was being established, the intelligence officer was reviewing recordings of the battle. He isolated audio from one of the human ships, a command vessel coordinating the attack. Sir, you need to hear this. He played the recording. It was a human voice, calm and emotionless, giving tactical orders. Alpha Wing, target engines on vessels designated K-47 through K-53. Beta Wing, eliminate escape pods from destroyed vessels. Confirm no survivors. Gamma Wing, prepare relativistic missiles for firing solution on Krethian flagship. Delta Wing, maintain electronic countermeasures. Eta Wing, stand by for pursuit if enemy attempts retreat. There was no anger in the voice, no excitement, no emotion at all. It was like listening to someone describe a maintenance procedure, clinical, cold, efficient. Play it again, Vrath ordered. He listened to the orders being given. The coordination was perfect. Every human ship knew exactly what to do, exactly when to do it. They fought like a single organism with 1,000 hands. This was not a military fleet. This was something else, something designed for one purpose only. Killing. Emperor Thrak appeared on the communication screen. The Krethian ruler was older than Vrath. His scales faded to a dull orange. Report, Commander. Our sensors indicate you engage the humans. What is your status? We have lost 98 vessels, Your Majesty. The humans were prepared. Their technology exceeds our intelligence estimates. Their tactics are unlike anything we have encountered. The Emperor's face darkened. 98 ships against the humans, that is impossible. I watch it happen, Your Majesty. I need reinforcements, additional fleet elements. This is not the enemy we expected. You have 300 warships, Commander. That should be more than sufficient to subdue a species of merchants and farmers. They are not merchants, Your Majesty. They are something else, something we do not understand. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked, did we capture any prisoners? One, Your Majesty, a pilot whose ship was disabled. He is being interrogated now. Put me through to the interrogation room. The screen split. On one side, Emperor Thrak. On the other, a small chamber where a human sat strapped to a chair. He was young, perhaps 30 standard years. His flight suit was torn and burned, but he seemed uninjured. Two Crethian interrogators stood over him. "Human," the Emperor said, "you will tell us about your military capabilities. You will explain how you defeated a superior force." The human pilot looked up at the screen. He smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret, a terrible secret. "You want to know how we beat you," the pilot said. His voice was casual, almost amused. "That wasn't beating you. That was just a test. We wanted to see how you fight. Now we know." "Arrogant words from a prisoner," the Emperor growled. "I'm not a prisoner. I'm a witness. You're going to let me go so I can tell your people what's coming." Wrath felt his blood run cold. There was something in the human's voice, something absolutely certain. "You mentioned a species called the Zathresh," the pilot continued. "Your intelligence officer found references to them. You want to know what happened to the Zathresh?" No one answered. The pilot continued anyway. "They attacked us, killed millions of our people. We asked the council for help. They did nothing. So we killed every single Zathresh, every man, woman, and child. We sterilized their worlds with nuclear fire. We collapsed their star and turned their home system into a black hole. We erased them from history because we decided the galaxy was better off forgetting that species like them ever existed." "You lie," the Emperor said, but his voice was uncertain. "The council knows. They agreed to seal the records. They agreed to let us pretend to be peaceful because they were terrified we would do to them what we did to the Zathresh." The pilot leaned forward as far as his restraints would allow. "You attacked us. You refused peace. So now Protocol Omega is active. Do you know what that means?" Silence. "It means we're not trying to beat you in a war. We're trying to make sure no one ever has to fight you again. Check your long-range sensors, Emperor." Part 5: The Reckoning. The Emperor's throne room on the Crethian homeworld was built to intimidate. Massive pillars carved from black stone rose 50 feet into the air. Battle standards from 100 conquests hung from the walls. The throne itself sat atop a platform that required visitors to look up at their ruler, acknowledging his superiority. Now Emperor Throck sat on that throne and felt small for the first time in his life. The holographic displays floating before him showed system after system under threat. Human fleets had positioned themselves around 14 colony worlds. They had not attacked yet. They were just waiting in orbit, weapons powered but not firing. The message was clear. They could destroy any of these worlds at any moment. They were choosing not to, for now. "What do they want?" Throck demanded of his advisors. "Why have they not made demands?" "There have been no communications from any human vessel, Your Majesty," the communications minister reported. "They ignore all hails. They simply maintain position and watch." "How long until our fleet can regroup and respond?" His military advisor, General Krath, looked grim. "The fleet is scattered after the battle at Threshold Station. It will take days to reassemble. Even then, we must divide forces to protect multiple worlds. We no longer have numerical superiority. The humans have more ships than intelligence predicted. Many more." "Where did they come from?" Throck slammed his fist on the throne's armrest. "Our spies watched their shipyards. We counted their military vessels. How did we miss entire fleets?" "They hid them, Your Majesty, somehow, possibly in deep space far from any system where we could detect them. They have been preparing for this for a long time, perhaps years, perhaps centuries." The Emperor stared at the displays. His empire was crumbling, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. "What about the Council? Have they responded to our petition?" "The Council has called an emergency session, Your Majesty, but they are debating procedure and jurisdiction. It could take days or weeks to reach a decision." "We do not have days or weeks." A new alarm sounded. The communications minister looked down at his console, his face losing color. "Your Majesty, we are receiving a transmission. It is being broadcast to every screen, every device, every communication system across all Crethian worlds simultaneously. We cannot block it. Show me. The holographic displays changed. A human appeared, female, older, wearing the same dark uniform the Admiral at Threshold Station had worn. Her hair was gray, cut short and practical. Her expression was calm. Behind her, a large display showed a star map of Crethian space. "People of the Crethian Empire," she began. Her voice was translated into Crethian language perfectly. "My name is Fleet Admiral Sarah Chen, Supreme Commander of Human Military Forces. Your government has initiated hostilities against humanity. We asked for peace. We offered compromise. We exhausted every diplomatic option. You chose war instead." She paused, letting the words sink in. Every Crethian across 14 worlds was watching now. They had no choice. The broadcast could not be turned off. "You believed we were weak because we prefer peace. You believed our military was inferior because we have not fought in centuries. You made a mistake. We are not weak. We are patient. There is a difference." The star map behind her zoomed in on one of the colony worlds, a beautiful planet, mostly ocean with large islands. Population, 30 million. One of the Crethian Empire's most productive agricultural worlds. 400 years ago, another species made the same mistake you have made. They were called the Zathresh. They were apex predators, physically superior to humans in every way. They attacked our colonies, killed our people. When we asked the Galactic Council for help, they debated while our people died. So we solved the problem ourselves. The display showed something new. Images, old footage from 4 centuries ago. It showed the Zathresh, massive and terrifying. It showed them attacking human colonies. It showed burning cities and fleeing civilians. The Zathresh killed 8 million humans. We asked them to stop. They laughed and killed more. So we activated Protocol Omega, the same protocol your government has triggered. In 11 months, the Zathresh ceased to exist. Not defeated, not conquered, eliminated. We removed them from the galaxy because we determined they were too dangerous to survive. The images changed. They showed human warships. They showed worlds burning. They showed the cold mathematics of total war. Emperor Throck watched in growing horror as the footage documented the systematic destruction of an entire species. "We did not enjoy it," Admiral Chen continued. "We did not celebrate. We mourned what we had been forced to become. When it was over, we went to the council and made an agreement. We would return to being peaceful members of galactic society. We would become merchants and diplomats and builders. In exchange, the council would seal the records of what we had done. They would let the galaxy forget." She paused again. When she spoke next, her voice was harder. "For 400 years, we kept that agreement. We became the species the galaxy wanted us to be, quiet, peaceful, harmless. We hoped that would be enough, that no one else would be foolish enough to threaten us. But every few centuries, someone forgets. Someone decides to test us. Someone makes us remember what we are capable of." The display changed again. It showed real-time footage of Crethian colony worlds, human ships in orbit, weapons charged, waiting. "Your emperor attacked our colonies, threatened our people, refused peace. So we have activated Protocol Omega once again. Our ships surround your worlds. Our weapons are prepared. We can eliminate your species just as thoroughly as we eliminated the Zathresh. Every world, every ship, every trace of your civilization can be erased within a matter of days." Throck felt his heart pounding. The throne room was completely silent. His advisors stared at the display, frozen in fear. "But we do not want to," Admiral Chen said softly. "We never want to. Killing an entire species is not a victory. It is a tragedy. It haunts us even now, 400 years later. So we are giving you one final choice. The same choice we gave the Zathresh, though they refused to take it." She leaned forward, her eyes intense. "Surrender, completely and unconditionally. If you do, your people will live. Your worlds will survive. You will face consequences for starting this war, but you will have a future. If you refuse, if you fight us, we will do what is necessary to ensure you never threaten anyone again. We will turn every Krethian world into a graveyard. We will hunt down every ship, every station, every outpost. We will do to you what we did to the Zathresh. The display changed one final time. It showed a countdown timer, 72 hours. Your Emperor has 72 hours to surrender unconditionally. If he agrees, he will order all military forces to stand down. He will present himself to the Galactic Council for trial. He will accept any terms humanity deems necessary to ensure lasting peace. If he refuses, or if any Krethian vessel attacks any human target during this time, the countdown ends immediately and we begin. Admiral Chen stood. Behind her, the star map showed all 14 vulnerable colony worlds, the countdown timer ticking down on each one. We do not want to be monsters, but we will be if we must. Choose wisely. This is your only warning. There will not be another. The broadcast ended. For a long moment, no one in the throne room moved. Then chaos erupted. Advisors shouting. Military commanders demanding permission to attack. Diplomats begging for negotiations. Everyone talking at once. Thrak sat frozen on his throne, staring at the empty space where Admiral Chen's image had been. He thought about the images of the Zathresh, beings far more powerful than his own people, reduced to historical footnotes. He thought about his own colonies, 30 million people on just one of them, billions across all of them. Your Majesty, General Krath said quietly. He had pushed through the chaos to stand near the throne. What are your orders? Thrak looked at the general. Krath was a warrior proven in dozens of battles. He had never retreated, never surrendered, but now his eyes showed fear. Can we win? Thrak asked simply. Krath was silent for a long moment. Then he slowly shook his head. No, Your Majesty, not against this. They have been planning for centuries, every move calculated, every possibility accounted for. If we fight, we will die, all of us. The Zathresh were superior warriors. Yes, Your Majesty. And the humans killed them all. Yes, Your Majesty. Thrak closed his eyes. He had built his empire through strength, through conquest, through never backing down. Every species he had faced had eventually submitted. But this was different. The humans were not trying to conquer. They were not trying to dominate. They were trying to eliminate a threat. And his empire was the threat. He opened his eyes and looked at the countdown timer still displayed on the screens. 72 hours, 3 days to decide the fate of his entire species. Contact the Council, he said quietly. Contact humanity. Tell them we will negotiate. Negotiate, Your Majesty, or surrender. Thrak looked at his general, at his advisors, at the displays showing his vulnerable worlds, at the faces of his people watching in terror. I will speak to my people first, he said. They deserve to know the truth. They deserve to understand why I am about to become the first Krethian emperor to surrender without a fight. Part 6. The terms. The neutral station floated in empty space between Krethian and human territory. It was a council facility designed for exactly this purpose: peace negotiations, treaty signings, the formal ending of wars. The conference room was large and cold, with a long table in the center. On one side sat Emperor Thrak and his remaining advisors. On the other side sat Ambassador Chen and a delegation of human officials. 3 weeks had passed since the countdown had ended. Thrak had surrendered within the 72-hour deadline, appearing before his people in a broadcast that shocked the galaxy. He had explained the truth about the Zathresh. He had shown the evidence of humanity's capabilities. He had told his people that continuing the war would mean extinction, and he would not lead them to that fate. There had been resistance. Some military commanders had refused to stand down. Human forces had eliminated them with surgical precision. 60% of the Krethian military was gone now. 40% of the civilian population had died in the brief conflict. It had taken only 3 weeks. Now the survivors sat across from the humans and waited to learn what their future would be. Throck looked at Ambassador Chen. It was the same woman who had stood in the council chamber and calmly given them 72 hours to reconsider. She looked exactly the same now, calm, patient, unmoved by the death and destruction that had followed her warning. "Emperor Throck," she began formally, "you have agreed to unconditional surrender. Do you understand what that means?" "Yes," Throck said. His voice was heavy with defeat. "It means we accept whatever terms you dictate. We have no negotiating position, no leverage. We are at your mercy." "That is correct." Chen placed a data pad on the table. "These are humanity's terms. You may review them." Throck picked up the pad and began reading. With each line, his expression grew darker. Finally, he looked up. "These terms are harsh." "They are fair," Chen replied. "Consider what you did. You attacked our colonies unprovoked. You refused diplomatic solutions. You forced us to activate protocols we hope never to use again. These terms reflect the consequences of those choices. You want complete disarmament of our military, every vessel, every weapon." "Yes." "You want all Krethian worlds placed under human protectorate status for 100 years." "Yes." "You want war crime tribunals for all military commanders who participated in the attacks on human colonies." "Yes." "You want all our military technology and manufacturing capabilities turned over to human control." "Yes." "And you want me to stand trial before the Galactic Council." "Yes." Throck set down the pad. "If I refuse." Chen did not blink. "Then we resume the countdown. Your worlds burn, your species ends. You know we can do it. You know we will do it if necessary. The choice is yours." Silence filled the conference room. Throck looked at his advisors. General Krath, who had served him for decades, nodded slowly. The message was clear: accept the terms or doom everyone. "If I accept," Throck said quietly, "will my people survive? Will they have a future?" For the first time, Chen's expression softened slightly. "Yes. We do not want to destroy you, Emperor. We never did. We want to ensure this never happens again. The terms are designed to prevent future aggression, not to punish your entire species for the mistakes of its leadership." 100 years is a long time. "It is," Chen agreed. "But consider the alternative. The Zathresh had no future at all. We are offering you one. A difficult one certainly, a humbling one, but a future nonetheless." Throck considered this. 100 years of occupation, of having human overseers watching every world, every decision, of being second-class citizens in their own empire. His people would hate him for it. History would remember him as the emperor who lost everything. But they would remember. They would survive to remember. "I accept your terms," he said finally. "All of them. I will face the council's judgment. I will order full cooperation with human forces. In exchange, you will spare my people." "Agreed." Chen stood and extended her hand in the human gesture of agreement. Throck stared at it for a moment, then stood and took her hand. Her grip was firm but not crushing. Not the grip of a conqueror gloating over victory, just the grip of someone completing necessary business. "There is one more term," Chen said as they sat back down. "Not on the official document, more of a request." "What is it?" "You will address the Galactic Council. You will explain what happened here. You will make sure every species understands the lesson. We need them to know." "Know what?" Chen leaned forward, her eyes serious. "That we do not want to be the monsters, that we will do everything possible to avoid conflict, but that if forced to fight for our survival, we will do what is necessary. No matter how terrible, we need the galaxy to understand that." Throck understood. Humanity was asking him to become their warning, their example. the proof that challenging them was futile. It was a final humiliation. But it might also save lives in the future. If his story prevented another species from making the same mistake, then perhaps his shame would have purpose. "I will do it," he agreed. "I will tell them everything." The formal surrender took 3 hours to complete. Documents were signed. Treaties were recorded. The Crethian Empire officially became a protectorate of humanity. When it was done, Throck and his delegation were escorted to quarters where they would stay until the council trial. Chen remained in the conference room with her own advisors. One of them, a younger military officer, spoke up. "Ma'am, the terms are harsh. Some are already calling them brutal. There will be criticism." "Let them criticize," Chen replied. "We did what had to be done, nothing more, nothing less." Will 100 years really be enough to change their culture? It will have to be. We cannot occupy them forever. That would make us conquerors, not peacekeepers. 100 years gives us time to help rebuild, to educate, to ensure the next generation grows up understanding that conquest and aggression lead only to destruction. After that, they must choose their own path. And if they choose aggression again? Chen's expression went cold. Then we will have to make another choice, one I hope we never face, but the Crethians know now what that choice entails. They will not forget, not for many generations. Part 7, The Warning. 2 weeks later, Emperor Throck stood before the full assembly of the Galactic Council. Every species was represented, thousands of delegates from across known space. They all knew what had happened. They had all seen the broadcasts, but they needed to hear it from him. Castor presided over the assembly. The old Verith looked even more tired than before, burdened by the weight of watching history repeat itself. "Emperor Throck," Castor said formally, "you stand accused of initiating unprovoked warfare against humanity, resulting in millions of deaths and the near destruction of your own civilization. How do you plead?" "Guilty," Throck said simply. There was no point in denial. "I am guilty of all charges. I led my people to war. I refused peace. I ignored warnings. The consequences of my actions are my responsibility alone. You will be sentenced by this council. But first, humanity has requested that you address the assembly. They wish you to explain what happened so that all species may understand. Will you do this?" "I will." Castor gestured to the center of the chamber. Throck walked to it slowly, his scales dull with age and shame. He stood in the same place Ambassador Chen had stood when he had mocked humanity. The irony was not lost on him. "I will tell you what happened," he began, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. "When we challenged humanity, we believed ourselves strong. We had conquered 12 star systems. Our military was powerful. Our warriors were brave. We looked at humanity and saw merchants and diplomats. We saw weakness." He paused, looking around at all the delegates watching him. "We were wrong. Humanity is not weak. They are something far more dangerous than any warrior species. They are patient. They learn. They remember. And when they decide that something must be eliminated, they do not defeat it. They erase it." He activated a holographic display showing the brief war, the battles, the losses, the systematic destruction of Crethian military forces. "In 3 weeks, humanity destroyed 60% of our military and killed 40% of our population. They did this while we had numerical superiority. They did this because they had been preparing for centuries, hiding their true capabilities behind a mask of peace. They did this because we forced them to." The display changed to show the Zathresh, the images Chen had broadcast. 400 years ago, the Zathresh made the same mistake we made. They attacked humanity. They killed humans. They ignored warnings. So humanity eliminated them, completely, every single member of their species. They removed them from existence so thoroughly that most of you have never even heard of them. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many delegates were seeing this information for the first time. The Council sealed those records, Throck continued. They agreed to let the galaxy forget because they were afraid of what humanity might do if threatened again, and they were right to be afraid. Because humanity made the same offer to us that they made to the Zathresh, surrender or be exterminated. We chose surrender. The Zathresh chose death. That is the only reason my species still exists. He turned off the display and looked directly at the assembled delegates. I stand before you not to ask for mercy. I deserve none. I stand before you to deliver a warning. Humanity is not what they appear to be. They are not simple merchants or peaceful diplomats. They are something ancient and patient and utterly ruthless when necessary. They have built a civilization on the corpses of species that threaten them, and they will do it again if forced. The chamber was completely silent now. Some of you may think we were weak, that a stronger species could succeed where we failed. You are wrong. The Zathresh were apex predators, physically superior to any of us. They were the finest warriors of their age. Humanity erased them in 11 months. We lasted 3 weeks. Throck's voice grew heavier. Humanity gave us 72 hours to reconsider. They followed every protocol. They exhausted every diplomatic option. They gave us every chance to turn back. We refused. We thought their patience was weakness. We thought their preference for peace meant they were incapable of war. We learned the truth too late. He paused, letting his words sink in. Now my empire is gone. My military is destroyed. My people live under human occupation, and I will spend the rest of my life in a council prison paying for the choice I made. But my people will survive. They will have a future. That is more than the Zathresh got. Throck looked around the chamber one last time. Humanity does not want to be monsters. They would prefer to remain merchants and diplomats forever. But if you threaten them, if you attack their people, if you refuse peace, they will show you what they truly are. And you will understand, as I now understand, why the galaxy agreed to forget. He lowered his head. I am guilty. I accept the Council's judgment, but I beg you learn from my mistake. Let my shame be a lesson. Let my empire's fall be a warning. Do not test humanity. They have been patient for 400 years. They have been peaceful. They have been kind. But beneath that peace lies something terrible, something that will emerge if you force it to. And when it does, no fleet, no army, no empire will be enough to stop it. The chamber remained silent as Throck finished. Casthar stood slowly, his ancient frame weary. The council will now deliberate on sentencing. Emperor Throck, you will be held in custody until... If I may, a voice interrupted. Everyone turned. Ambassador Chen stood in the human delegation section. The council recognizes the human representative, Casthar said. Chen walked to the center of the chamber. She stood beside Throck, looking up at the thousands of delegates. Emperor Throck has accepted responsibility for his actions, she said. He has agreed to humanity's terms. He has delivered the warning we requested. The Krethian people are cooperating fully with the occupation and reconstruction. They are following the path toward peace. She paused. Humanity requests leniency in sentencing, not because the emperor is innocent, he is not, but because he made the hardest choice a leader can make. He chose his people's survival over his pride. He chose to surrender rather than lead them to extinction. That choice saved billions of lives. It deserves recognition. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the chamber. Throck looked at Chen, shocked. We do not ask that he go unpunished, Chen continued. But we ask that the council consider house arrest rather than imprisonment, that he be allowed to advise his successor, that he be permitted to help guide his people through the difficult century ahead. His experience, his humility, his willingness to accept blame, these things have value. She turned to face Throck directly. You were our enemy. You attacked us. You forced us to become something we hate, but you also chose to end it. You chose peace when you could have chosen mutual destruction. For that, we are grateful. Chen looked back at the council. Humanity has no interest in vengeance. We want peace. We want the galaxy to prosper. We want to return to being the merchants and diplomats you once knew. Punishing Emperor Throck beyond what is necessary serves no purpose. Let him live with his shame, but let him also live with the knowledge that he saved his people. Let him be proof that surrender is not the end, that there is still hope, still a future, even after the worst choices. Casthur nodded slowly. The Council will consider humanity's request during deliberation. Are there any other statements? No one spoke. Then we adjourn until tomorrow, when sentencing will be announced. Epilogue 4 centuries later. The garden on New Seattle was peaceful in the evening light. Ambassador Chen, not the same Chen who had stood in the council chamber, but her great-great-granddaughter, bearing the same name and the same position, walked among the flowering trees. Beside her walked the Crethian ambassador, a young female named Shara. Her scales were bright green, unmarked by battle. She had been born 20 years after the occupation ended, part of the first generation to grow up in a Crethian empire that knew peace. Your great ancestor must have been remarkable, Shara said. The records speak of her with such respect, even fear. Chen smiled slightly. She carried a heavy burden, they all did. Do you think they were right to do what they did? The Zathresh gave them no choice. Your emperor gave them no choice. They did what they believed was necessary to protect their people. But to erase an entire species is a terrible thing. Yes, it haunts us still. Every human child learns about the Zathresh, about what we did to them. We teach it as both history and warning, a reminder of what we are capable of when pushed too far and why we must never let ourselves be pushed that far again. They walked in silence for a moment. The occupation ended 5 years ago, Shara said. 100 years exactly. Your people could have stayed. We were grateful. Many of us wanted you to stay. That was not our purpose. We came to ensure peace, not to rule. Your people needed time to heal, to rebuild, to find a new path. You have done that. The Crethian Empire is different now, stronger in some ways, perhaps, certainly wiser. We will never forget, Shara said quietly. Every Crethian knows what happened. We teach it in our schools. We remember Emperor Throck, who chose surrender over extinction. We remember the 3 weeks when we learned humility. Good, Chen replied. Memory is important, but so is moving forward. They reached a memorial at the center of the garden, a simple stone monument inscribed with names, human names, the 15 million colonists who had lived on the worlds the Crethians had threatened. None of them had died in the war, all evacuated before it began, but their names were here nonetheless, a reminder of what had been at stake. Sometimes I wonder, Shara said, what would have happened if Emperor Throck had not surrendered, if he had fought to the end? Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, then there would be a different memorial here, one with billions of names. And I would be explaining to a different species why they should not make the same mistake. You would really have done it, eliminated us all. Chen turned to look at the young Crethian. Her eyes were sad but honest. Yes, we would have, not because we wanted to, but because humanity learned a lesson 400 years ago. Sometimes the only way to ensure peace is to be capable of overwhelming violence and to be willing to use it. The galaxy only remains peaceful because they believe we would do it again if necessary. Would you? I pray we never have to answer that question. They stood together in the fading light, 2 ambassadors from species that had once been at war, now standing in peace. Around them, the garden grew wild and beautiful, life flourishing, where once there had been only the threat of death. The galaxy has been at peace for 400 years, Shara observed. No major wars, no genocides, no empires trying to conquer their neighbors. Do you think your ancestors' actions were responsible for that? Chen considered the question carefully. In part, perhaps. Fear can enforce peace, at least for a time, but fear alone is not enough. The galaxy also needed to see that we meant what we said, that we would defend the innocent, help the defeated rebuild, and return to peace when the fighting ended. Your empire is proof of that. You were our enemies. Now you are our partners. That transformation gives other species hope that peace is possible. Still, Shara said softly, the price was terrible. Yes, it was. They walked back toward the diplomatic compound in comfortable silence. Above them, ships from 100 different worlds moved through the sky, traders, explorers, tourists, the peaceful traffic of a peaceful galaxy. Ambassador Chen, Shara said as they neared the compound, may I ask one more question? Of course. Protocol Omega, is it still active? Could humanity still? Could we still eliminate a species if threatened? Chen finished. Yes, the protocol remains, the fleets remain, the capabilities remain. We have not forgotten how, Shara. We simply hope never to be reminded. I hope so too. As do we all. They parted at the compound entrance, each returning to their duties. Chen walked to her office and stood at the window, looking out at the thriving colony below. New Seattle had been one of the worlds threatened in the Krethian War. Now it was home to humans, Krethians, Veriths, and dozens of other species, all living together in peace. Her great-great-grandmother's portrait hung on the wall, Admiral Sarah Chen, Supreme Commander of Human Military Forces. Her eyes in the portrait were hard and sad, carrying the weight of decisions no one should have to make. We kept the peace, grandmother, Chen whispered to the portrait. 4 more centuries and counting. Was it worth it? The things you had to do, the things you had to become, was it worth this? The portrait, of course, did not answer. But outside the window, the sun set on a peaceful world, and the stars emerged, thousands of them, each one a solar system where people lived and loved and built their lives without fear of annihilation. Perhaps that was answer enough.